I just want to shake some sense into you kids.
You're going to be doing a lot of fucking shaking with these kids. Give them fucking shaking baby syndrome.
Yeah, let's shake some babies. Why the hell not? Let's.
It's fun, right?
You know, you can do that to an adult if you shake them hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that out.
How did you find that out?
By shaking the ever-loving shit out of someone so I didn't hit them. I should have just hit them. Wow. Now you got shaken baby syndrome. That's not my problem. Send him back out to the work site so he shoots a nail gun at me again.
But shaking leaves no marks. It's just like hitting them with a phone book.
Oh, God. Yeah, do you have any brothers that did that to you? Like came up behind you, just whomped you one with the phone book while you're watching cartoons?
No, my brother and I have 8 years difference between us, and he was half brother, so you know I wasn't there enough for him to torment me.
I was an only child.
Mine was only a couple years old. Well, the nearest older brother was only a couple years older than me, and the next one was like 8 years older than me or 10 years older. So yeah. And my younger sister was like 2 years younger than me. And she hit me with a phone book.
Jeez.
She hit you with a few things, didn't she?
My older sister would have hit me with shit.
Is she the one who stole your car?
My sister's 4 years older, and she stabbed me through a door.
Stabbed
Damn.
you through the door?
That took some effort.
Yeah.
With what?
Well, a butcher knife.
I gotta hear this.
What? Yeah. Do tell.
Come on.
I mean, it's not really that much to speak. She just didn't. There's a whole. Okay, there's the host of family.
You had a shining moment here, you know.
But I mean, I was in California. We were in El Cajon, which is sort of a subdivision of San Diego.
Hey, that's where I live, or I used to live. I grew up there.
Oh, well then.
I know.
Okay, well, I had. There was a whole thing that happened between my father's old school. He whipped us and everything, and we were taken away basically from my family for about 6 months, and my parents had to fight for custody of us back. And when they got us back, my dad was kind of scared to be around the family, and my sister was a daddy's girl, so she internally hated me and did not know why, but she hated me, like absolutely hated me. Like got her boyfriend.
She blamed you.
Try and hurt me all the time. And there was this one day we were just like, she was supposed to be babysitting me, and I said something wrong and she chased me, and then I got out from under her and ran to my room and closed the door. So she started kicking down the door, and I put like my weight against the door, and she stabbed the butcher knife through it and stabbed me in the chest.
Oh shit.
Fuck.
Well, women are the kinder, gentler half of the species and all that,
No, we're not. We're the psychotic half of the species.
That's
One minute you're good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, 1 minute you're laying there in bed, and then you open your eyes and she's in midair with a knife. And you're going, wait, what?
There was a meme the other day. It was just a woman with these sort of like almost cross-eyed, but not quite, like looking extremely angular and angry, like a bird about to attack a mouse, right? And they were like, "This is not the look you want before bed." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the look Lorena Bobbitt gave,"
Never go to bed with a mad woman.
No.
Okay, buddy, how long were you in El Cajon for?
I was not there for long. I was there for like 3 years. It was it wasn't even that. It was like a year and a half. I was in an elementary school because it was third grade. I want to say it was like third or fourth grade, and they were just we had just taken this test, and I did really well in the math and science portions of the test, so they wanted to put me in some sort of gifted program, and then all the crap happened right after that. We lived in a condo. And because, we had just moved there, my dad was working for, I don't know if you remember it, long ago, PSA Airlines.
Holy shit! That was the San Diego County airline.
Yeah,
It was from San Diego.
Yeah, so he worked. He had worked his way up from being just a regular tech to a manager, but didn't realize like the hours that a manager would work. So he was working like 2-3 days in a row, and then he'd come home, and my mother would kind of yell at him about the kids because she was not happy that he was gone all the time, and all that sort of stuff that happened with us latchkey children.
Fun times, yeah. My parents stuck my ass in daycare. I don't know if you remember kindergarten, but that's both my parents worked till like 6 or 7 at night. So I get dropped off at 6 o'clock in the morning and wouldn't get picked up or 7 at night.
I had that for a while, but then like when my sister was like, I don't know, 7, they were like, oh, she can babysit you,
Oh shit.
So she did watch over me for the longest time. I remember like her idea of, everybody's like, well, why do you like all those salty foods and stuff? And I'm like, well, when you grow up on canned food, because what else is the 8-year-old supposed to make you?
Yeah. I mean, my mom would leave. My mom and dad would leave about 6 or 7 in the morning. I have no idea what my mom did. My dad would leave for work, and my mom would just vanish, and they wouldn't get home till like. My mom would get home about 8 or 9. My dad would get home when the bar closed. So my older sisters and older brothers had to raise us, and then we raised ourselves because why not?
I mean, it wasn't that uncommon. If you think about it, it's not that uncommon from what happened the generation before us. You know what I mean? Of the Gen X, because what did they do? A lot of them were still agrarian, especially like in the South. A lot of them were agrarian, and because they were agrarian, like it was pretty common for like especially farmers to die pretty young, like 50s, 60s, and the kids to be taken over at like 13, 14. I mean, it wasn't so common that it happened at every farm, but it wasn't uncommon enough to be called rare either.
No, it wasn't. Especially combine, you chew somebody up and they're just gone. That's how I ended up on a farm for a few years. That was probably the better time.
Somebody went through a combine, so you ended up working on a farm?
More like was drunk and trying to kick something out of the gears of a thresher and got eaten.
He shook hands with danger.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That's like one of those like one of those like Stephen King short horrors, where like a laundry machine eats somebody.
Are you thinking of the Mangler, the possessed machine? Oh God, shit, that came out of the what was it? Night Shift short stories.
Yeah, that big farm equipment gets you. You're nothing but a stain.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like the dark brooding music leading up to the inevitable. It's just like, oh God.
My dad heard about it and laughed and said, I knew that dumbass was gonna have something like that happen to him.
That's when you see the like Maximum Overdrive, and you see them like throw a can at the truck that's evil or something, and you're like, oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, my cousin who saw it happen loves Maximum Overdrive.
Oh Lord.
It's a good movie.
He mentioned it too. He said one minute it was idling, his dad was in there kicking something. The next minute he heard this, and his dad was gone.
The only thing that horrific like that I saw was in Israel. Over in Israel, when I was doing Code 137 operations, which are just like Class D. Class D inspection, which is where you take it all the way down to the truss. You take it down to the bones of the airplane. And we took it down to the bones, put it back together, and a guy was working on the clamshell type thrust reverser and didn't tag it out properly.
Ooh.
Somebody came to the front, pushed the wrong button, and it slammed over the top of him. And,
wow.
They told us, like, we got medical out there, and medical came and said, call his family. Because as soon as we open this, he's dead.
We had this fucking NCO who was a goddamn retard. You couldn't tell this motherfucker shit. He wouldn't listen to anybody. And they were moving tank engines at the motor pool, and they're using a crane to do it. But they had to lift them. They had to lift them over a section, so it's above. You're not supposed to lift stuff above like a foot or two off the ground with a crane unless you absolutely have to. There's ground guys out there, and this guy had walked like 3 or 4 times underneath the fucking load, and everybody kept yelling at him. He was like, "You can't tell me what to do. I'm an E7." He's fucking walking through, and we hear this pow. Ooh. Master cylinder blew out on the crane. and like an 8-ton engine in the crate landed on him, and it just squirted chunky salsa out. I was like,
my god!
I was like, he's gonna look like a cartoon.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Rolf,
I worked on for Evergreen. I worked on tanks as contract because they use the same engines, turbines. So they hired us to.
Engines.
Yeah, they hired us to work on the different turbines. They actually Pratt and Whitney usually makes the same engine. Like a lot of them use, or well, they did back in the day anyway. The older tanks use the JT8. So
okay, Rolf. What was the story about was it an NCO who was banging on?
It was an officer, and he was banging on a fucking the 50 cal round belts aren't designed to pop apart. You know, the belt's designed to stay together. There's the expended casing holds the rings together, and he had 2 belts that were separated, and he had a 50 cal the bullet pointed straight down, and he was trying to hammer it into the links with the point of another 50 cal round. And I told him, hey, don't do that. He goes, don't tell me what to do. I'm an officer. And I walked away, and I couldn't have got more than 10 steps before I hear pow and him start screaming because there went his fingers.
It's amazing.
People are always retarded.
How many stories before the punchline, is the line, I'm an officer. I just, Jerry?
Oh, I was reading the autobiography of that fighter pilot in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And there was a major who was flying in, and he didn't want to take orders from a lowly lieutenant on the ground who was guiding him in, saying, look, you're coming in too quick. You're coming in too quick. And
don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Well, they were flying F5s, and even the Air Force model had a hook.
F5s or F4s?
F4, sorry, an F4, and it had
the
a hook.
Flying Brick.
Yeah. It still had that tail. Even the Air Force version had the tail hook on it, and they were landing on this big sheet of aluminum that they just rolled out and put skids on. And
that doesn't sound good.
That sounds normal.
Yes.
And he's coming in, and he's coming too soon, and the major wouldn't listen, and the hook catches on the edge of the runway.
Oh god.
And apparently the plane literally split in half.
Damn.
The engine part stayed hooked to the runway, and the cockpit half just went rolling down the
that cost the US taxpayers several $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like I have an old story. It's an old favorite. We were moving out some old munitions, and it was like it was dynamite from the 1950s. And it was crystallized in there, and the box looked greasy. And I just said, you know what? Pull everything else out of this bunker, and we will leave that pallet right there. As a matter of fact, we're going to do as little as we can with anything. Just let's try not to blow that up. And this guy came down, and he's like, you need to move that out of there because it should have been destroyed weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, I plan on like throwing a grenade in closing the door and throwing a grenade in the bunker because the bunker has to be destroyed anyway because the roof is cracked and it has roots coming through it. And he's like, you need to move it to the blast pit. I'm like, no. And he called me a coward. He called me a couple other names. And then he got a forklift in there and he bangs the forklift against it. And I'm like, my balls are all tensed up. My asshole slammed shut. And I went over and stood by the blast ditch, and he leaves in the forklift, and it's bouncing because he's going too fast. When you go too fast to the forklift, the front bounces.
Yeah.
So this pallet of like 6 boxes of sweating dynamite is bouncing on the forks. I'm like, and my friend goes, you know what? He is just the kind of retarded dumbass to make it all the way to the boom. I was like, I'll take that $10. Fucking pink misted him.
Oh.
Fucking ordnance where you see people pink misted all the time.
Jesus.
People are retarded. You literally can tell them, don't do that. As soon as you turn your back,
have you seen the signs that they have nowadays?
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat the wrapper on Subway wrappers. It's like,
oh my god.
And then as you get older, you realize that these stupid signs exist because stupid people exist.
Because somebody sued over it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, like, what is it? Don't put your hand in a blender. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Do not bathe with the toaster.
The spinning blades kind of gave that away.
Yeah.
Oh God,
No,
no.
we gotta bring Darwinism back. You know, if you're dumb enough to eat the wrapper, you deserve to die.
Speaking of toasters, the long line of these supposed life hacks that are
Ugh.
out there involving toasters that I'm shocked more people aren't dead because they've been trying to do them. It just amazes me. Like there's the one where it's people trying to cook a steak in a toaster.
Oh.
And
why?
Because it's a life hack. You know, you're so clever for shoving a steak into a toaster rather
Have
than
you seen
cooking
what
it
these
the
people
normal
do
way.
with food? I don't ask questions anymore. I just walk away.
Yeah.
I quit
When you're
looking what
putting-
people
You know,
do
when
with
people
food.
mix like Heinz 57, Fruit Loops, and steak, I'm like, I'm out.
I saw somebody washing a chicken with Dawn dish detergent.
I saw
I've
that
seen
too.
that video. I've seen that
Yeah,
video.
where they're like, you gotta clean your chicken.
I'm like, I went and just cut the head off of a chicken and
You're
plucked
like,
all its feathers.
that's not how you clean a chicken.
No.
Have you seen the one? I think the guy is from Malaysia. He's an actual professional chef, but he purposely makes gross food videos where he takes like 3-day-old moldy rice, washes it off in a sink, and then will take a steak out of a container that's been just sitting out and put an iron on it to cook it. Like he purposely makes the most disgusting food possible.
Why?
To aggravate people or what?
Yes, he does it to aggravate people. The comments are hysterical, and people haven't picked up yet that this guy is actually a professional chef.
He's just being a professional chef troll.
Yeah,
there's a
trolling.
couple like these, I don't know, middle-aged, balding, toothless New Orleans cooks, and they're serious, but they actually do make good-looking food. But it is, you know, like streetwise New Orleans or not even New Orleans, like streetwise like Cajun style. You know, just a hot plate, a whole bunch of spices, onions, peppers, all that kind of crap, and they just like throw it on there, and then they were like, here's a little butter, and then they put like a whole, like a huge like half a pound or pound of butter, and just throw it on there, and it just begins to boil and fry and sizzle and pop everywhere, and they're like, no, we're gonna throw in some meat, and you know they make it a joke. It's like a truck with gators in it, and the gators are still alive, like.
Oh,
So
wow,
it's pretty crazy.
For a second there, I'm like, you know, the joke is that they use a lot of butter. I mean, they've got nothing on Julia Child.
Oh no, they're just, you know, it's just a funny. Like, what's funny is people see it and they're like, "Oh my god, that's disgusting," and like everybody who's had that food is like, "Please give me some."
Yeah. Like I said, like I said in other shows, I'm one of those guys that will eat at like the roadside stand and not get dysentery. So, you know.
I mean, a lot of those places, especially if you go to other countries, I mean, that's how you get some of the real, like, sort of indigenous or whatever food, right?
Yeah, people who go to like Saudi Arabia or fucking whatever and eat at McDonald's or Burger King always mystify me. It's like, why?
Yeah, if I traveled, I wanted to eat what they had. Is the way I always was. I was like, well, you know, if you go to Middle East and you haven't had like the rose water and absolutely everything, you failed. You know.
Although I will say I legitimately want to go to a McDonald's in Germany so I can have a quarter chicken and a beer. That just
well,
sounds
what
amazing.
is it? The ones in Hawaii have like rice and pineapple and spam.
I actually did see that when we went to Hawaii. Did not partake though.
Fried gator is actually fantastic, and what the guy was actually making was a carbonara pasta with gator in it, and that's why I was like at the end of it. Exactly when that was at the end of it, all these people that are like, you know, kind of uppity about it. We're like, oh my god, that's so gross, like meat, and I'm like, dude, give it to me, put it in a bucket and serve it.
Can you make that for me, Kat?
I can't get gator here.
Oh.
And
why not?
And ever since finding out that you know, iguana is an invasive species, and so it's perfectly fine to hunt.
Oh, you've been waiting.
Iguana.
You've been waiting to see one and pop it with a 22.
In Florida, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I can't do it here because you can't hunt them here. But in Florida,
like the Burmese python. Have you seen the ones they're clearing out of Brazil right now?
Oh dear God, they're huge.
They're like 23 foot long, 40 foot long. They're ridiculous. And I'm like, there's one guy who was taking a picture of one. He couldn't have been more than 15 feet from it. I'm like, if that thing turns around, you're dead.
Spartan Cat, why not eat guinea pigs? They were originally bred to be food.
Because it's not the Bronze Age anymore.
Well, true.
I was trying to find a video. I was going to put it in chat so you guys could see, but talking about people cooking stupid. Have you? Okay, so it's like Vice or one of the stupid fucking media companies showing people how to cook food in your hotel room.
Oh,
including
yeah.
how.
Is it the one where the dude uses the dryer to roast meat?
No, this is one where the girl uses
an iron.
She buys bacon.
Yep.
And eggs and puts them in foil and then heats up the iron and then puts them on the fucking iron. And she says, this is how you save money. And then she puts eggs into the coffee maker to boil them.
I saw that one. I
was like, bitch, people use that stuff. Like the iron really made me mad because I have to iron our clothes when we stay at a hotel room when we unpack. Because, we have to shove 3 people's clothes into one small
the iron thing actually does work, and it is a legit way to cook if you get stuck someplace, like when we were stuck in Chicago. But you're not supposed to do it right on the foil. You're supposed to then wrap it in a towel to help protect the iron. Because that's not your fucking iron.
No, she had bacon grease and shit all over it. I'm like, are you gonna clean that up for the next person uses it and you ruin their clothes?
People like this is why we can't have nice things. Is they do dumb shit like this, and the companies are like, we might as well not put irons in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing about the coffee containers, the coffee makers, really made me laugh because an expose came out where they were talking about how it is very common for people who share a hotel room and they only have one bathroom to piss in the coffee maker.
Yeah.
And they don't clean it. And the cleaning staff doesn't clean it because they don't know. But
why would they
don't use the coffee maker in hotel rooms.
Actually, that's not
especially
true.
in Las Vegas.
I worked hotel services once for like 6 months because we were broke and I didn't have a job. And one of the things you had to do when you went in there to clean the room every morning is check the coffee maker. The big thing you'd find was tampons or rolled up menstrual pads shoved in where the coffee grounds go.
Oh God!
Or used condoms or drugs in where the coffee grounds go. That was the big thing you'd find.
Why would a used condom there?
Because people are disgusting.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that.
Nothing will turn you.
That is quite a bit of effort.
Nothing will turn you against humanity by working guest services at a upper scale $300 a night in 1999 hotel. Rich people are disgusting.
Oh, okay. There's just something that women like to smear their menstrual blood everywhere.
Oh God!
And that's really a gross thing, but that is a thing. I just went to a 5-star restaurant recently, and I went to go use the bathroom. And I step into the stall, and I sit down to pee, and I turn to look, and some wonderful woman had smeared her period blood all over the menstrual pad tampon disposal. It wasn't accidentally you're trying to get it in without it leaking. No, it was here, let me get it here and let me get it here and around it. And I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Between working at a tavern and working guest services, women can talk about how men are nasty all the fucking time. But every time they do, I want to smack them in the mouth because I've cleaned your bathrooms. Women are the most disgusting fucking people on earth. I have seen them close the lid and shit on the toilet lid.
What?
Why?
I don't know.
Well, no, I know why.
I've seen them shit in the little tampon box. I've seen them shit in the sinks. I walked in and these 3 girls are sitting at the sinks shitting while 3 other women are standing in between them talking to them, and the other ones have the stall doors open and talking to them. I'm thinking, I'm a guy. When I go in the bathroom, if the guy next to me starts talking, I think he's a pervert and leave. But they're just chatting away while she's sitting in the shitting in the sink, and I'm like, because I knocked, and then I opened the door yelling mail coming in, and they didn't say anything, and I walked around the corner and they all look at me, And I just slowly backed out. I told my manager, and he's like, "There's no fucking way." I'm like, "You'll go in there and you'll find shit in the sinks." And he comes back out and he's fucking livid. He's like, "You need to go in there and clean that." I said, "No, no, no. You cannot make me clean a biohazard. You call the cleaning company because I'm not cleaning shit out of sinks." He threatened to fire me. I was like, "Go ahead, fucking fire me. I'm not cleaning human shit out of sinks." That's like the girls that run the changing rooms will call you in because women will, I don't know why, but they'll shit in the changing room and wipe their ass with underwear and shove it back in the package.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the most I've ever seen guys do is sneak a pair of women's underwear into the women's changing room and jerk off into them. At least they leave the underwear on the seat.
Kat, what do you know about this?
I know it's a thing.
That's the first I've heard of it.
I know it's a thing, and it's like, I know that it's because of stuff like that that you don't want to buy your underwear from Walmart because they don't care. They just put it back on the shelf.
See, if it's been opened, they're not supposed to because it's considered contaminated.
It's considered, yes, but if they can close it back up,
okay, so
then they just like discount it 25%.
How did you find out that the female of the species likes to take a dump in the changing room?
Because the girls would call me, and in the female changing rooms there'd be a big pile of human feces.
Not you. I'm asking Kat. Kat, did you know someone?
You hear things.
Kat, did you shit the changing room?
No, I did not.
Well, you're in the changing room, and like the woman in the next one over is going.
Look, I'm the one who I was the sad son of a bitch who was the only person manning the changing rooms at Spirit Halloween.
Oh Lord. God.
It was me and only me. So there.
Did you walk around with a hazmat suit on?
Yeah.
Not even the costume ones.
I know a guy who was a tattooist and piercer that said that the women that would come in practically made him gay.
Really?
Oh God, he had the most grotesque stories.
Oh, where they wanted things?
Well, it's a clitoral piercing is not that big of a deal. What is a big deal is if you let your boyfriend fuck you in the car 5 minutes before your appointment.
Ew! Fuck! Oh my God! Have some common decency! Holy shit!
No. I mean,
would
he was
that
telling
in the contract. If there is fluid that doesn't belong there when I do my work, I don't have to do that work.
He was telling me that sometimes he'd do the piercing and they'd piss all over the seat.
Oh.
I was like,
I mean, I could see that as just a reaction, but
yeah, I was like, okay, the nerves are hardwired. He goes, yeah, but I would tell them to go in and urinate, and they'd be like, oh, I did before I came here. He said the worst ones were like the chicks who were like 5'2" and 300 pounds that wanted clitoral piercings.
Oh God.
Be like, somebody need 2 people to hold it back. Okay, hold the roll back. I gotta find one.
He was like, I'm gonna tell you the same thing.
Horrible, but...
He said, I'm gonna tell you the same thing a gynecologist will tell you. It doesn't matter that you're wearing gloves. It doesn't wash off your hands.
Oh no!
Why?
Well, I knew medics who had to pull coochie patrol. And they'd be like, my hands would, these were women that were like, my hands would stink of bad pussy for like a week.
Oh
God.
Oh God, I know a woman, a female medic who had to do coochie patrol on the unit females after 2.5 months in the desert with no showers.
Oh.
She was like, let me tell you, that was a special kind of hell. I was like, I can't imagine. It was luckily vaginas are self-cleaning. But yeah. I mean, so I love it when I hear, oh, men are disgusting pigs. And I'm thinking, bitch, I've cleaned your bathroom.
I was going to say, I've sometimes bypassed the women's bathrooms at rest stops and had Steve do a lookout for me. And I go into the men's bathroom. It is cleaner.
You don't shit in the urinal, do you?
No. The only time I've ever heard of people shitting in the urinal is if somebody's really drunk or they're in elementary school and they think it's funny to shit in the urinal.
Are there from the third world? It's like their first time encountering it, and they go in there shit in the urinal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's understandable, But walking into the men's bathroom at a rest stop at 2 a.m. and seeing a fully adult woman taking a shit in a urinal, I was just like, why? But she just looks at me like I'm in the wrong bathroom.
I don't know what it is with women and their obsession with shit. I actually knew 2 different girls. One broke into her boyfriend's car who cheated on her, and she shoved down the window of the driver's seat and took a shit in his car. And another one got mad at somebody and took a shit on his doorstep and then wiped it and stuck it to the door.
Well, okay, I can admit that Lol Cow never fucked crazy goth girl.
Yeah.
Had a weird shit obsession too.
I thought it was
Oh,
mostly
no, you
with
told.
her
Yeah, I've heard
period,
those
though.
stories
Yeah.
about her and her shit obsession.
Well, she took a dump on a plate and sent it down the elevator.
Oh yeah.
I remember
The only
that
thing I
story.
remember about in my life about weird shit story was when I was in high school, and we were taking a test. Everybody we had just finished like with AP Cal, and so everybody was taking that test at the end that only goes to like 1 to 5, and we're doing the thing, and we finish it, and then all of a sudden somebody went to the bathroom and they came back like throwing up, and we're like, what the hell's wrong? And they're like, there's shit all over the bathroom, all over the windows and the mirrors and everything else. Oh my god. And so then everybody went to look at it, and it was like there was like poop, like 6 feet up in the air,
Like they were a
wow,
sprinkle, like they bent
that's
over like a
talented.
sprinkler.
Oh,
Please.
Jesus.
So
Oh,
it was
man.
kind of funny because like everybody was so disturbed, they gave us a redo of the test.
Okay, that's funny.
That's funny.
If we're going to apologize to everyone for this,
Yeah, I have no idea how we got here.
The closest story I've got is, I was a counselor in training at Girl Scout camp, and I was put in charge of these little 8 and 9-year-old girls. And I never used the pool when we went to camp. I know what public pools are like. I'd rather not. And it was a good thing too, because one day, like all of a sudden, the lifeguard announces, everybody out of the pool, and then proceeds to give us this long speech about how pools are not giant toilets, and that if you have to go, you got to use the bathroom because somebody turded in the pool during swim time. And then a bunch of the girls that I was overseeing, for some reason I was their favorite. I have no idea why. They're like, oh, we know who it is. It's so and so over there. And they pointed, and sure enough, this poor girl was wearing a white bathing suit and it had a big old brown stain on the ass.
Oh, geez.
Oh no.
Oh God. And the thing is like I was overseeing these girls. I knew them. She knew better than the turd in the pool, so she did it for some strange reason in her own head to get attention, and it did not get the attention she was looking for.
What kind of attention did she think she was going to get? I mean, she'd have the nickname of Pool Girl for the rest of school.
There's a TikTok video with this like athletic guy that obviously doesn't bathe very much, and he's doing backflips, and he decides to do a backflip with a 2-plate, or holding a plate in each hand, right? Which is, I mean, that's fairly athletic, fairly strong, very athletic. So he goes to do that, and unfortunately, the center outward force did something to him. He's obviously been doing this a while. He's all sweaty and everything. His pants are falling off because he's one of those people that can't wear pants that fit. And as he's flipping, the brown squirts across.
Oh no.
and they
On
posted
his
this?
white underwear. Yeah, and he posted. I guess he didn't see it, and it was funny because like it was on one of those one of the tweet one of the Twitter handles that only does like joke things, and they showed it, and everybody. I mean, it didn't take people long. They're like, "Oh, that's cool, second person," but why the stain?
Jesus.
They're like, that's a skid mark. Let me tell you.
I think I know what site you're talking about or on Twitter, because there was a video posted of a guy who was streaking naked, jumping off a ledge into a lake. And as he jumped, I guess he squeezed too hard because he just explosively shat everywhere naked as he's jumping into this lake. It was like, what
He needed
the
a little
fuck
bit
just
more
happened
thrust,
to
you
you,
know?
dude?
He did that on purpose.
He needed that little bit of extra inch of thrust.
Oh man.
Turbo.
Explosive diarrhea. Go!
Yeah. That's like, I know a lot of people that thought it was gross. It was a few years ago, like 10 years ago. This woman at the time set a world record for the marathon. She crossed the marathon, and it was obvious not only had her period started, but she shit herself during the run. And everybody's like, oh, I'd never do that. And I was like, she beat the world record by a minute and a half.
Have you
I
ever
would
read
happily shit
David
myself
Goggins?
if I beat the world record.
That
Have you
washes
read
off.
about David Goggins?
Huh.
He's a black dude that runs like super marathons, like 100 miles or whatever.
Oh,
now.
those are great.
And he used to do. He was a Navy SEAL. He was a Ranger. He tried to get into Dev Group, but he didn't make it. But he started running. He started running those marathons when he was a bodybuilder.
Oh,
He
Jesus.
ran an 80-mile marathon at 260 pounds of muscle. Right.
He's lucky he didn't die.
He broke his legs and ran on them. And there's a condition that when you actually break your bones, when you splint your bones, and you go past this certain point of pain in a specific part of your body, it basically makes you die. It thinks you're dying. So you shit. You literally just shit yourself. And he shit himself all over. And he just kept running.
Marathons by anytime you go over 20 miles, your body literally thinks you were dying.
Really?
Yep.
And
So it evacuates your bowels and your bladder so that when you take that abdominal wound, it doesn't fill the body cavity.
Yeah, so he crapped himself, and then he pissed himself, and then he started, he apparently got to the point where he started pissing and shitting blood. And he just kept going. And then he was like, and he literally about to die at the end of the night, soaking in a brown, icy tub. And his wife was like, you got to go to the hospital. He's like, wait a minute. I got to enjoy this. I made it through this pain. I was like, that's got to be the stinkiest victory ever.
The first 100-mile marathon I did, I threw up blood afterwards.
Really?
And my buddy was like, you got to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, fuck you. Give me a beer. I'm waiting. I crossed that line. Damn it. I was 8.
I was going to say, there's a reason that the guy that the marathon is named after died when he showed up to the city of Marathon.
Yep. Yeah, he ran the mile, said, we won!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
I mean, that's why it's exactly, was it 23 point something miles or whatever?
Yeah. If you watch the Olympics sometime and you got an HD TV, about mile 8, if you watch the males marathon, you will see more erections than you thought existed.
Really?
Oh God!
It's a combination of blood flow, the vibration, the friction, and your body's going, I don't know what's going on. Maybe if we do an erection, this will stop.
They talk about, when you read some of those, and they're the most horrific things. Goggins talks about running in the desert, and there are these horse flies where he was running by. There were horse flies like the size of his hand, and they would land on the side of his face and just chew. He could hear them. He could hear them chewing, and he can't do anything. He's just got to keep, because if he stops, he's done. Once you're in that, if you stop, you're done. You won't get it back. Most of the people. So he's like, he just lets it chew on him. He just let it eat his skin.
Yeah.
That was easier than trying to stop and get them all away. And he knew, there was so many of them around that even if he hit 2 or 3, there was still more than get on there. So he was like, well, if they take up the surface area, then the other ones can't get on.
I got asked if I was suicidal because my CO found out I was planning to go to Fort Irwin and run the Mojave Desert. And he was like, are you stupid or suicidal? I'm like, I'm telling you, I can make it. And he's like, no, I'm sending you to mental health. I'm still convinced to this day I could have made it. I trained for 3 months. I was pretty sure I could make it.
That just makes me think of that marathon through the Sahara. Do you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently found out about that run, and it's like I'm not shocked that it exists, but at the same time, holy fuck.
I remember reading a magazine about this like overweight guy that ran marathons. Like he was literally he was like 270 pounds, not muscle, and
Oh,
he
Jesus.
ran marathons. And there was a sheik in Saudi Arabia or somewhere, I can't remember, where he said, I had to meet this man that was so obviously out of shape and was going to go run 23 miles in the hot sun.
This. Yeah.
And he met him, and he was like, what he said was he was the most sedentary human being he'd ever met. Like he said he's like a human sloth.
Oh God.
But he made the marathon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I didn't read it. I just remember reading that beginning, and he had made other ones though, and I remember just thinking like, does he just save it and it comes out in marathon?
Who knows? People are weird. I mean, I used to do triathlons and shit, and fuck, I'd be like wrecked for like a day or two. I'd be like, yeah. They'd be like, hey, you want to go out drinking with us? I was like, are you gonna carry me? So my buddies would give me like 3 or 4 shots of fucking wild turkey. I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I'd get up from bed and they'd see all the bruising on my legs.
Oh.
And they'd be like, what the fuck? I'd be like, oh, I fucking ran 45 miles.
Jeez.
It's just
the thing you did.
Yeah. And, I look back on it, now that I'm older, and I'm like, I wonder why my knees. Oh, yeah.
How come I can't move? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I wasn't supposed to live this long. People are capable of incredible feats of endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what Goggins like tries to tell. Like, I mean, his thing is not do what I do. It's that we're capable of this. So if I can do this, you can do more.
The Army used to have this event we call combat cross country, and you'd run 25 miles, and every mile or two you'd have an event. Go across a river, rappel down a cliff, rifle range, machine gun range. And we go out there and do that like twice a year. And I think about all the guys doing it because you got a full ruck on your back because they pack your ruck and make sure you got everything you're supposed to. And you run this, in full gear. You're not running it in bicycle shorts and a fucking belly shirt. You're running it in full uniform with your mask, your rucksack, and your weapons and your ammo. And I think about that. And I'm like, and then I hear people going, oh, expecting someone to walk a mile. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Human beings were designed to run for miles at a time.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Nepali British forces called the Gurkha?
Yeah, Gurkha, yeah.
And they've only really gotten more popularity in the past like 5 years or so because England is allowing benefits to immigrants, but not the Gurkha, who have defended their country for 200 years.
The Gurkha wouldn't take it anyway. The Gurkha wouldn't take it anyway.
They want it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they want it. They want their due, their given due, but they're not giving it to them, which is, the people who died and bled for you, no, the immigrants who, broke into your country. Yeah, you get it. It's whatever. But anyways, the Gurkha, like you read about them and they're freaking amazing. They are crazy. They're not big. They're like 5'8" to 5'11", most of them, they're about 150 to 170 pounds, but they live up in the mountains, so high up in the mountains that their body has created a new gene that allows them to, they metabolize oxygen at a more efficient rate than any human on the planet. And when they come down to ground level, they're like supercharged because of it.
Yeah.
It's like they're like you on oxygen the whole time. And so they're faster, they're stronger, they have more stamina. They put 200 pounds, like this is the selection process. They put 200 pounds in a wicker pack on their backs, and they run up the mountains 15 miles. That's the beginning of it.
I learned about them from the Sten series, which is a science fiction series written in the 80s. I learned about them from then. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And the training in low oxygen in the mountains works.
They are crazy. They are such. I mean, the stories that when you get into them, like 4 of them held off 200.
Yeah.
Japanese 200, And the last guy, he had one hand versus 17. And they were like, you go into the weapons is Depresson Poon. What did he use to kill them at the end? It was like a sandbag, a tripod, so many 100 pounds of ammunition, and the stock of the gun itself. Like he beat one of the people to death with the tripod of the gun.
That weighs like 30, 40 pounds.
With one hand. Because the other hand, they threw to get rid of him. They threw 3 grenades in. He threw them back. The last one caught his hand. So he fired with his non-dominant hand to kill the last 17 and then beat the last couple to death with a tripod.
Damn.
And Britain wants to piss these people off.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny,
their statement is better to die a coward, or better to die than live a coward.
Yes.
And they say, I am a Gorka, which means come fight a Gurkha.
Well, I agree. Actually, it's better to die than be a coward.
I mean, see, when if you're gonna write, you got to look up people like this, because if you're gonna write about enhanced humans, you got to look up at exactly who they choose. Because I mean, that gene would be edited in so fucking fast into a man amplification project.
Oh yeah.
Well, China wants it. I mean, China wants it bad, because China's wanting to do like a basically a super soldier program. They've taken CRISPR, from like the English developed CRISPR, which is the genome sequencing, and they want to take the genome sequencing. Every other country just wants to remove the maladies. China's like, fuck that. We want to make people Superman.
Well, you got to, but then you ask them, okay, so you created these super soldiers. What are you going to do with them when you're not at war?
They're going to fight each other.
That's the ultimate problem.
Yeah, when they're not at war.
Emperor of Mankind did wipe them out.
Yeah.
Well, wait, they're not at war, and there aren't enough women.
Yeah.
So the Middle East.
That's how you end up with warlords.
Well, that's how you end up with Saudi, like the Middle East. The different. I mean, that's what they talk about, is that we're going into that sort of degenerate condition where you have, because of polygamy, you have certain people with like all the wives, and then you have a whole bunch of lonely dudes. And the worst thing a civilization can have throughout time has been a bunch of lonely dudes.
Have you noticed in the West, polygamy is like one woman that looks like a potato and 3 guys that look like I don't know what to
That's
say.
the polygamy that you see, but there's a sort of like, I don't know, hidden polygamy, which is that you've got the quote unquote Chad dude that's basically banging all the chicks. One like the upper 5% getting around 80% of the women.
And when
that's what's been happening in with the FLDS and what's his name, the psycho pedo that's in prison right now, Warren Jeffs. I mean, it's literally all of the elders have all of the women, to the point that they're marrying their own daughters now, and they've kicked out all the young men.
I'm actually going to put it on a much more simple level if you want to talk polygamy. The fact is, at least as far back as I think maybe the 70s, maybe, but definitely it became a thing in the 90s and the aughts, was that you'd get these women who would sleep with a bunch of chads, pump a couple kids out, then marry a beta cuck afterwards when she's all used up and ugly to raise the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's old as time.
See, that's like, I don't understand the guys who have like, are in a relationship with 5 women. I can barely handle one woman bitching at me all the time. I can't imagine having 3 or 4.
Right. That's what I always say. Is I'm like, that's too much. That's like too much investment for me.
Well,
I don't share.
To use their term, it's too much emotional labor.
Yeah. Oh God, I hate when they say stupid.
And then you got to balance that shit. Oh, you gave her 3 more strokes than you gave me. Fuck, just kill me.
But yeah, in our past, we'd encountered more than a few of these women who were hot in their youth. They'd sleep around, they'd pump a kid or 2 out, they'd get old and used up, and then they'd marry in their 30s a beta guy who was stable and easy to control to raise the other guy's kids.
Boomer wine ants.
What?
The boomer wine ant.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, though, it's funny that, once we started figuring out DNA, like all these stories started coming out, right? That like a 40-year-old father and then he gets the DNA results and his own kids aren't his.
Yeah.
you know, and then
It's
he's like, what happened? And all of a sudden the mom's like, you were never supposed to figure this out. You know, I banged your friend for all those years.
How many times have you heard I was drunk. I didn't know.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got drunk and I
slipped, and
slipped
fell
on his dick.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I can get it. I can. It's, you know, part of me understands it, you know, okay. But at the same time, at least be honest with yourself. You know, you were horny, he was there, and your husband was boring. Just admit it. Okay? You don't want to ask your wife to do the cool shit she did when you guys were first together, so you went and got little Miss New Boobs and knocked her up. Just admit it. You know, that's the one thing that always got me. You know, she doesn't do the things that we used to when we first got together. You're 50. I don't think she bends that way, dude.
Oh, Wolf, I like that. It was an entanglement. Jesus.
Yeah.
What a pretentious way to say I cheated on you.
Oh.
I don't know, like they want to use every excuse. It's like, what was that? Somebody was talking about thirst trap the other day, and I was like, you know what a thirst trap is? A thirst trap is an excuse to think a specific way about something. It's dehumanization, but about a thing, not a person. Because you want an excuse to feel that way. Well, it's just when somebody posts a picture and everybody wants to jack off to it, and then they call it a thirst trap. Like, how dare you make this thirst trap? You know, you put this on me. You inflicted me with this psychological injury of lust.
Sorry, if you find Sonic the Hedgehog fuckable, that's on you.
Right.
Ugh.
I have never understood this new thing of everybody is at fault for the way I feel but me.
Well, because accountability is gone. They don't want accountability.
Well, they spent years in the 90s telling everybody with any kind of aggression, any kind of anger issue, that, nobody can make you feel some way. You're responsible for your own feelings. Well, if he fucking slaps me and slaps my wife, well, how you feel is up. And
that was undone in like one generation where they were told they could be anything, and so they identified as not my fault.
Yeah, that's kind of the difference between X and millennial.
Mm-hmm.
You made me feel this way. I didn't make you feel shit. I posted a picture of a kitten.
Oh God! Just imagining
you
that.
weak fucking loser.
Well, see, now you have just said pretty much the ethos of Gen X. Oh, you weak fucking loser. I mean, hey, don't do that. That offends me. What are we? The first, you do not tell a Gen Xer, don't do that. It offends me. Because
I'll do it again.
It sounds like a whole lot of not my problem.
I'll fucking do it again.
That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. Well, that's like, it's the difference between Gen Xers and millennials. Millennials, something happens to a member of their family. Oh, the cop shot him and all he was doing was waving a gun around at a 7-Eleven naked. And they're like, oh, it's not his fault. We're Gen Xer. Hey, did you hear what happened to Tom? And then they shot him twice. And then they sicked the dog on him. It was great.
Dude, was it on the news? It was. Instant replay.
Did he die? No. Oh, good. We get to make fun of him when he gets out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, I told you when they rolled me into surgery when I got shot, the ER team was like giving me shit and ripping on me. Oh, hey, said you're throwing signs in the wrong part of town, dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because remember,
when they found out it wasn't my fault, they actually apologized.
I mean, it's your own fault. You did it. I mean, I taught my granddaughter something, and it bothers the school because she got in trouble recently at school, and the teacher said, "Do you know why you're being punished?" And my granddaughter repeated exactly what I taught her. It's the consequences of my own actions. And the school called my daughter to ask where she'd heard that. My daughter went, my dad taught her that. Well, it's a good life lesson.
What is wrong with that? Isn't that the right thing? I mean, they're actually like, oh my God, how they're like, like they're going to hold up their fingers at a cross,
Yeah. It's the way she says it too. It's the consequences of my own actions.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
I told you not to play with that. You played with it. You cut your finger. What's that? The consequences of my own actions? Okay, now let's stop the bleeding.
Okay, lesson learned. Now first aid.
Well, how many people do you know do the same? People are insane, and I can guarantee you that 80% of people in America right now are insane because of one simple definition. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, isn't that
That's-
leftism in general? Well, if
Yeah.
leftism doesn't work, well, what you need is more leftism.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't understand. Well, how could my fighting dog bite me? I don't know, champ.
That's a severe lack of critical assessment.
People don't have it anymore.
No, they don't.
You know,
I know
it's just like,
somebody.
I'm going to do this thing. Are you going to do it differently? No. Okay.
I know somebody. He's trying to sue the maker of a jack stand, right? Because it says on the box for subcompact cars only. And he lifted up the front of a 4x4 truck and it fell on him and broke his leg. I told him that at Just World it would have crushed his melon fucking head.
Mm-hmm.
That's like that whole hot coffee thing.
What, the old GTA mod?
No, the grandma that took the coffee and then spilled it on her lap.
Did you
apparently, and then
ever
it
see
burned.
the pictures of what happened to her?
Yeah, I
No,
know
I
the
heard it was really
story.
bad though. But they
It-
were like, the coffee is hot. You can
No. It
No.
was so hot it fused her vagina shut.
Yeah, they actually found that particular store was brewing the coffee way too hot, and they didn't put the lid on it properly for her. So yeah, no, there was actually a legitimate reason for that.
It went through her dress, through her underclothes, and fused her vagina shut.
Yeah.
The only time I've
It
seen anything
melted.
like that is when I was in welding school. And
Yeah.
this guy wasn't paying attention. And they tell you, when you're in welding school, pay attention once you heat the rod. Once the rod is yellow, is orange hot or hotter, pay attention to what you're
Yes.
doing with the rod. Because you have a lot of bad habits with things in your hand that you can't feel. Like, where you take a pen and put it between your lips.
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
something like that. And this guy wasn't paying attention, took a rod and like put it in his hand and then put it against his leg.
Oh,
I
And
think
it went right through.
I think the indicator that people were getting kind of soft is I just remember in junior high, I had a wood shop teacher.
Do you have all his
greatest-
fingers?
Yeah, he did. Greatest generation, ex-military kind of guy, right? Been in the Korean War. The guy looked and talked like Tom Anderson from Beavis and Butthead. Okay. And he's given us the tour the first day of class of all the different machines and telling us horror stories to make sure we're going to be careful. Yeah, in the old days, I used to bring in a couple cans of Spam and run them through the machines to show you what happened to you. But the school says that's a little too insensitive.
Shit.
And I'm like, damn, that's not fair. I want to see Spam
No.
go through the
Yeah.
through the circular saw.
Oh God, because it's September, when you start school. My first day of wood shop, the teacher had frozen deer, and he used the bandsaw to cut it.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
wow.
And he was
This
like,
is what
think of
it'll do to your
do.
fingers.
This is what it'll do to you.
Well,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I had a friend that was taking a metal shop in high school, and he was not paying attention, and he had the sparks land on his middle finger, and it like melted the top of his finger. And his teacher was like, "What did I tell you?
What
Why
did I
weren't you
fucking
paying
tell
attention?" Yeah, exactly. And but he was like proud of it. He's like, "Check it out, dude! I fucked up a metal shop." We're like, "Great!" It was an excuse to flip us the finger because he did it to his middle finger. But like
Was it the whole finger? No, it's the one next to it.
Sounds like the kid I knew who nearly chopped off his fingers by being stupid with a katana.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's kind of talented. How do you do that?
He honestly, he was doing katas with it, and the door to the room that we were in, this was at a friend's house, opened, and it startled him, and so he was
So then he tried to catch it,
and he let go, and the katana went flying. The rest of us scattered. It's like, we're not getting near that thing. He put his hand out to catch it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Nearly chopped off 3 fingers on his left hand.
I was learning how to rappel, and we're out there everybody's doing it, and my D-ring broke, and it pulled my hand through the D-ring, and I hit the ground on my back, and I'm still, trying to figure out what's going on. And this big black DI runs up to me, and he's holding he's holding the last two joints of a finger. And he looks at me and goes, "Is this yours?" And I look at my hand and I'm missing my finger. And I'm like, I think it is. And he yelled at me all the way to the ambulance. He got in the ambulance with me, and he yells at me, shaking my own finger at me the whole way to the fucking hospital.
Oh
I'm
my
absolutely terrified. They sew
I
it
bet
back
you never
on.
forget that moment, though, right?
No, I can still remember that. "Is this yours?" And they sewed it. They put it back on, and they're like, "Well, it may or may not stay. You may not regain function." I had physical therapy for like 6 months to move one finger, and it healed up. It's just got a big thick scar on it now, but I was still in shock, and he's like, "Is this your finger?" He's chasing me, waving my finger at me to the ambulance.
Jesus.
And a lot of people say, "Oh,
is this your finger?"
and everybody's like, "Oh, that sounds heartless." Well, I didn't go into shock, and I didn't start crying, and I didn't feel any pain.
So
he kept you occupied.
Yeah.
Distracted. That's actually smart.
Yeah.
And 3 days later, I did the course again and passed.
Hey.
I really checked that D-ring good.
I bet.
Fucking made by the lowest bidder, and it just
Oh, have
snaps.
you guys seen that? It's another TikTok where this old guy is in pretty good shape. Looks like he's in like Hawaii or some coastal vacation city, and he's on one of those like paragliding things. And this lady's like checking all the buckles and everything, and he gets about 70 foot out and falls.
Hey, that's the way to go. Hey,
And
that's the way to go.
And dude, I was like, and everybody's like, "Is he alive?" And I'm like, "You can still see the earth through the water where he fell." No,
he's dead.
No, he's gone.
My favorite tweet of all time will always be the UK police tweeting out, "Man arrested after checking his dying wife out of the hospital and having a meth and rock and roll fueled sex party with her until she died." And his mugshot's on there, and it's the face of a man with no regrets.
He's like, "Yeah."
They were like in their 70s, and she had terminal cancer. So you read the story. She has terminal cancer. He checks her out of the hospice. They go home and do a shitload of meth together, and just have wild naked monkey sex all over the house, blaring rock and roll out of the stereo.
Good for them.
Yeah, good.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's my
Go
favorite
out.
because it's the face of a man with no regrets.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
if
go
you
out
find
with
that
a-
picture, that article, send it to me, Ralt. I gotta
Look
see
it up.
this.
It'll be the first hit on Google. Hell, you could do Google images.
So what is it? Man checks out or
checks out wife out of hospice and has meth fueled sex party.
okay.
And you'll be able to tell because this is a little old bald man with big ears. And it is the face of a man with no regrets. I mean, he's got the whole, yep, we did that.
Wow. Just found it.
Tell me that man has any regrets. Go ahead.
No. He is happy.
Oh my god! That dude looks so happy. That is the happiest man on the planet. He set his wife out with a bang.
Yes.
Like, oh my god, I'm so happy for him.
Drug and rock and roll fueled sex death party.
Hey, that's the way to go, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it was in Chicago. I thought it was in the UK for some reason.
That face says, "I'd do it again."
And I'd do it again.
Is it horrible that I'm proud of him?
No.
Well, other than the fact that the drugs they were on were illegal, really, I don't see him doing anything wrong.
I'm reading the article though, and he's trying to scrub white and black things off him because he's still hallucinating from meth.
Yeah.
The phrase "Death Parade, God Hell" had been spray painted on their front door.
Rocking out to their favorite song, Mental Health by Quiet Riot.
Oh my god, this is great!
And he was only 58, so hey, that's a way to go, man.
The court documents allege Johnson had sex with his wife roughly 2 hours before her death, then washed her body and wrapped it in linen like it says to do in the Bible. I'm sorry, he cared for her.
Yeah, no. This sounds like a man that was giving his wife a last hurrah.
Yeah.
That is the face. That is a face of a man that has zero regrets.
Again, I don't see an issue with this. I mean,
Wait, really? What did he do that was wrong?
He gave her the meth to let her have a good time while she was dying because she died from a meth overdose.
Yeah.
But she'd already had like 2 heart attacks and she was deranged.
Criminal neglect and receiving stolen property is what they charged him with.
Oh, God.
Receiving stolen property? Okay.
I'm sorry. If I was on that jury, I would have said not guilty.
Oh, yeah.
same.
I'd be like, not guilty.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a feel-good story there. That is a man who loves his
Yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this story's great. I kind of want to make him my avatar now.
And people say, why is that? Because that man is happy.
Yes. That man
You know,
is a role model.
You hit the point where you're just like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know, she knew she was going to die. He knew she was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's the worst thing ever when you think your wife was going to die. You know, you think your spouse they were probably married for fucking decades.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to go out with a whimper? You know,
That's just it.
I mean, not to bring down the happy, but I am actually glad that my dad passed away before my mom because I know he wouldn't want to see her like this. But if he was alive, he'd probably do the same thing for her.
Smother her with a pillow?
No, actually, he'd probably take her on a mushroom and booze-filled cruise out in the middle of the ocean and party till she died.
My parents have always talked about doing like that when they saw that movie Thelma and Louise. You know, they were like, I don't want to. My mom's like, I don't want to be alive without you, and he's like, yeah. He's like, we'll just do a Thelma and Louise one day. You know, we'll drop the deeds off at the kid's house and go out to Arizona, see the beautiful sight one more time, probably have some drugs, and then we'll drive off a cliff. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. Like they're telling me this at breakfast when I'm like 8, and I'm like, okay.
We used to joke that if one of us died, the other would put him in the car. We'd give everything to the kids, drive out in the middle of nowhere, and then just blow up the car with plastic explosive.
That's a
so
way
have the like Alfred Hitchcock kiss, you know, where it's like, yeah, how long would you have the kiss? I would have it 10 minutes, but there's a bomb under the chair.
Well, you should put fireworks with those plastic explosives. So like there's fucking like cheerful light everywhere as you say goodbye to the world.
Jack Kerouac spider strand fireworks.
Well, that's like somebody asked me, if you were going to commit suicide because everything was over, how would you do it? I said I would do it to traumatize the most people ever. And I actually saw somebody put it online. I would tie a rope to my feet, and then I tie it about a 5-foot length of piano wire, of a C-note piano wire to the bridge, and put it around my neck in a noose, and then super glue my hands to my head, and then I would jump so the piano wire would snap my head off, and I would be swinging under the overpass by the rope, holding my severed head in my own hands. Yeah, explain that one to the site for the next 30 years.
That would be on Twitter so fast, or that would be on like TikTok and everything. People were like, "Look at that! That's some crazy shit right there."
Because if you're gonna go out memorable.
Okay, so somebody here says, example, Ishii's Moffat motif is he is a gray. He used to do the Great Big Alien Show, then he spun it into the Nothing Cast, and it became Three's company. From time to time, he still quotes the Alien Human Suit tagline. Are you saying you want more alien shit? Is that what that means in the comments?
We still have a field trip to do.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, never mind.
More alien stuff. So the whole reason I'm on this show is I'm sitting out at the diner and I look across the goddamn street, and I'll be goddamn that this weird little fucking gray thing's looking at us through the cornfield. And my friend said, "Let's catch it and fuck it." And that's how Ishii ended up on YouTube.
Well, I don't know what to say about that.
Let's catch
Well,
it
you got a
and
cute
fuck
little
it.
pooch.
Teach him to
Well-
hang around cornfields. You know, you're lucky because we saved you from them weirdo kids that live in the cornfield.
Oh yeah, corn children.
You know, I did come across a video where this guy's talking in a bar to some old farmer redneck dude. He said he'd convinced somebody that he had shot a gray and eaten it.
Wonder what it tastes like.
Everything
the
tastes like
proteins.
chicken.
I was gonna say probably chicken. It's your body. If it can't identify what meat it's eating, it automatically tastes like chicken.
Yep.
So we can't
That's
identify
weird.
what chicken tastes like then, is what you're saying.
No, reptiles and avians you can't really identify.
I
And they
always
are
say, like,
related.
most of the time, what it really comes down to is chicken are so domesticated, internationally, that most people have had chicken, and so you identify everything with what your experience is, which would be, yo, this is gamey chicken, or this is tough chicken. If you've had shrimp and you eat like rattlesnake, and you've had the rattlesnake, like grilled, and the texture is much more like shrimp than it is chicken or
Yeah.
fish. But if you haven't had those things, then you're going to say it tastes like chicken, because I've heard people say that. Or same thing with alligator. Alligator does not taste like chicken. But you'll hear people all the time say, "Oh, it tastes like chicken." Okay.
Well, the gray alien skeleton is entirely cartilage, so I don't know if that affects the taste.
Well, cartilage is good for your skin.
So you're saying you're flexible.
Yeah. Not a thing to
Very
admit.
flexible.
Cat's like, he's very flexible.
Yeah.
And the lung and heart is essentially one organ.
Mhm.
The what?
The heart and the lungs are actually one organ in the gray body.
Mhm.
Huh.
Okay.
You didn't
That
know
seems
that, did you?
dangerous
So pulmonary edema doesn't happen.
No.
because the air intake would then be exposed directly to the heart muscles surrounding the lung. It's probably a single lung. Pulmonary muscle around the lung, contraction, exhale, relaxing the lung, inhales because of tendons that pull it toward the cartilage of the ribs. Probably has rings instead of like we think of the normal.
By the way, I'm actually quoting stuff that is supposedly real. That is
Well, that would be more like a bug, because like bugs don't, like, that's one of the reasons they can't grow big, is because they don't have the bigger lungs, the lung capacity.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
also, they have they don't have a closed system. They have an open system.
Oh, bugs. Yeah.
bugs.
Yeah.
They tend to have just their shit floating around in there.
I was gonna say instead of breathing with lungs, they actually have little holes through their body.
Yeah. Circles.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I forgot which bug it is that literally keeps the shit in its body, and when it dies, it is just poop. That's how it dies, because its whole body has been overtaken by poop.
Is it a stink bug? Because that'd be funny.
No, I can't remember what it is.
That sounds like a defense against predators.
Yeah, it does. Like, go ahead and eat me, bitch.
Yeah, now I'm picturing the physiology of the gray, and it's like, okay, chest wings, tendons and ligaments inside to pull it.
He's gonna like draw it out.
Well, with Mirage Men, the guys at the government that cook up this stuff to keep people distracted.
Well, like Dodie.
Yeah, like Dodie. During the 80s and 90s, they did have sci-fi writers coming up with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's unlike the reptilian stuff, which is just batshit and weird. There's this weird internal consistency with the gray alien mythology, because it was partially cooked up by Air Force intelligence and then slowly seeded into the UFO community.
I think we're a reality. I think we were contacted by aliens, but we're a reality show.
Yeah.
I think aliens watch us on like pay-per-view. And I think like our government, half the time is, the aliens going, hey, do this because we want to see what's going to happen. And I think the last couple seasons have been really boring, so they're really trying to spice it up. So next season's just going to be fucking crazy. Because, we haven't had a good war. Ukraine doesn't count. We haven't had a good war in 60 years, 70 years.
Yeah.
So it's getting boring. Getting another land war in Asia.
Well, Biden's trying to help that.
God,
He
is he
can't find his
trying.
shoes.
Well, he's the puppet, but
Yeah. You know, it's like somebody said, you know, would it surprise, you know, what would you do if there was a politician up there giving a speech and the mask fell off and there was an alien? I said, I'd immediately vote for him. Figure what the fuck, why not?
Well, at
this
least
point,
that guy's got a plan, you know.
at this point, if it turns out that our politicians are reptilians and we really are a science project from the Greys, I just probably would just shrug it off and say, okay.
Yeah.
like
I
in
got some
They
shit
Live.
going on. Are you not surprised? I got some shit going on, man. Sorry.
Yeah, They Live. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, what if, yeah, Roddy Piper says, I figures it'd be something like this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Who was the guy that you told me about yesterday?
Oh, that's Hynek.
Hynek.
J. Allen Hynek. Now, that's legit stuff.
Yeah.
That is actually legit what he wrote.
How do you spell his last name?
Hynek.
Okay.
And he was part of Project Blue Book, and he left
HEI.
H-E.
Oh no, yeah, J. Allen Hynek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Blue
was
Book
on Project Blue Book, and afterwards he left. And when enough time had elapsed, he just flat out said no. He showed up originally thinking he was a science advisor, and then he realized instead of him trying to come up with alternate theories, you know, the scientific method is you propose things and then you disprove them, and that's what he thought he was doing. And then he found out, no, the first thing he proposed, they just say, okay, this is what it is. Now shut up.
Okay, yeah, it was the book you told me. It was the Hynek UFO report, the authoritative account.
And
of
it was
Project
just him
Blue Book.
basically talking about how his job was to lie at Blue Book. And then he talks about, I think there's 16 out of all the cases that he said he actually was curious about, that he thought had an air of legitimacy to them.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't make any wild claims.
Well, Uncle Sam can hide a lot under his hat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you know, and it, like I've said before, you know, I'll be like, oh, that's just a conspiracy. And my wife just looks at me and goes, husband of mine, you were part of a conspiracy, you moron.
I mean,
And I was like, no, I wasn't.
If you seriously want to get me into a breakdown of legit versus conspiracy theory or disinformation, I can. I mean, I've done ridiculous amounts of research, and
You were writing a book there for a while.
I still will.
Mhm.
I mean, I did. The fuckers didn't publish it, is what it is.
They didn't.
They wanted it free. At the 11th hour, they said, well, we can't pay you. And I said, well, then you can't have it.
Yeah.
I still have it. It's still done.
Yeah.
Just put it out.
Yeah, I should.
Well, that's like, you know, every time you know, you get into underground bases and people goes, there's no underground bases. It's like,
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
have you heard of
are.
NORAD? And you can see them blue screen to death because you're like, what about Raven Rock, Mount Weather? What about all that other shit? You know, what about Side R? You know, any of this ring a bell?
Yeah.
And they just look at you because they've heard of this. They know it's real. But if that's real, then maybe what you're saying is real, and their brain seizes up.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote a article. It was a book of essays about science fiction, specifically alien invasion or alien horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one on the Greys and Grey mythology. And at the time, I was a 100% skeptic. But after doing tons and tons of research, I'm not 100% skeptic anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What I did cover was pretty much how much of it was disinformation. And I got deep into the proof of all the various disinformation and how there was kind of this weird feedback between the UFO community, Hollywood, and the Air Force intelligence. They'd all feed on each other. And like I said, the Air Force had sci-fi writers coming up with very plausible or believable stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Part of it was to hide the jet and drone programs.
Oh yeah, they knew that the Soviet Union had spies in the UFO movement as a cover for their spying. So they were filling it full of disinfo to freak out the Soviets. It was part of it. But then you start to research it, and there are certain things that's like, why are they trying so hard to confuse this? Or there are certain things where it's like, that doesn't quite add up, or there's no reason for this to have happened. And they're few and far between. I mean, Rendlesham is still kind of sketchy. I mean, it probably was a radioactive drone, but Rendleship, the way they act about that is really interesting.
I think that was an Orion drone.
Really?
Yeah, where they basically used a small reactor. Because remember, toward the end of the Cold War, we had literal fission reactors down to the size of a VW bug. I mean, that's how big they were.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Orion drone here. Oh, you think it was a Russian vehicle?
No. The Orion project was using nuclear explosions to drive a jet.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I wouldn't doubt that in the least because, yeah, those guys got radiation poisoning.
Mhm.
And the film from the camera where he had taken the pictures
Was
screwed up the way radiation would screw up a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And as he got closer to the vehicle that he saw, he starts getting weird on the recording.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, radiation fucks with your brain.
And for years, the government claimed none of that existed until someone turned up the tape on accident in the back of the drawer when they were clearing out the base.
Yeah.
I'm
But
looking at Project Orion right now.
But
that's just really screwed up.
The other two that are really bizarre is there was the Andreessen case and the Betty and Barney Hill case.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is those are the two cases you can say weren't influenced by media because the image of the gray alien was unknown at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet those two cases happened around the same time. And these were people who didn't know each other, had no contact, both had similar experiences and saw similar things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, okay, well, that's interesting. You can't say much more than it's interesting, but it is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I find it more interesting that Betty and Barney Hill have the same name as Betty and Barney.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. I'm like, what the fuck? This can't be. Oh my God, it really is.
Well, I think the thing is like a lot of people don't realize NASA and a lot of our scientific exploration, jet propulsion, our science projects got curb stomped by the Soviets because they infiltrated the environmental movement.
Yeah.
And they shut down anything in the name of public safety, public health, including stuff that was actually designed to help the public.
Yeah.
And we got hamstrung. I mean, that's like everybody says, oh, NASA this, NASA that. NASA gets 0.9% of a penny for every, I think it's something like $1,000 the U.S. spends. And they're bitching about NASA using it when tubular aluminum, bras, cross your heart bras, all kinds of stuff have come out of the space program. The spin-off technology has made other corporations in America rich.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
Well, I mean, what is it? SpaceX they're pushing battery chemistry, because of what's available. They pushed, Tesla pushed lithium metal, and now they're going to the sodium ion and sodium metal, which if they can get the separators right on the sodium metal, you're looking at something like 10,000 times the capacitance and energy density that we have compared to lithium and sodium ion.
That would change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Our big problem is batteries.
Yeah, and that's but why were those things found? Well, there were externalities that had to be solved
for spaceflight.
Exactly, in doing something that was absurd, right? And that's the deal, is that like people, I don't know, like now we do everything safe. Everything's got to be safe. Everything's got to be measured, and it's got to be within the bounds of humanity. It's like, no, that's not how we've ever strived. We shot. You shoot for the stars, and when you crash, you figure out why.
Yeah,
and you come back stronger.
People have no idea. People have no idea how many people died at sea between 1619 or 1642 and World War I. I mean,
they think they're all missing. They think they're all slaves.
Well, no, I mean it's just the whole thing of or was it 1492? Yeah, 1492. People have no idea that entire fleets came up missing, never to be heard from again.
Oh, yeah. No, that happened frequently. Actually, what I find fascinating is learning about the search for the Northwest Passage. And the fact that ships would attempt to go up there, disappear. We're only just now within the last 20 decades finding them, and that's because we have modern technology to do so.
Did you ever read the book The Terror? That was one of the stories. The ship was the HMS Terror.
Yeah, the Terror is
Yes.
like very, very interesting. I haven't read the book yet, but I've watched several documentaries on it.
That's a freaky one. The book that I read about the Terror was Dan Simmons' take on it, so it was more supernatural. But he left a lot of historical stuff in it, and it was fucking brutal. I couldn't believe that they kept sending expeditions in to find this passage when every expedition had failed, including the guy who was in charge of the expedition with the Terror.
Yep.
His guys were stuck for so long they had to boil their boot leather to eat to survive.
Yeah.
And then they send him right the fuck back out there, and then he dies, and like the entire fucking expedition disappears.
And then look at nowadays. Oh, we can't try to colonize Mars because someone might get a boo-boo.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what gets me. It's like,
I remember year or two back when I was on Twitter, someone was going on about, oh, we'll never get to Mars because of these reasons. And I said, do you know anything about the history of discovery?
Yeah.
You know anything about colonizing and new frontiers? Do you know how many people die getting there? History are made by people who are willing to risk their lives. No one's going to go because the radiation is like, look, there are people who would be more than willing to die at 50 if it meant they colonized Mars.
I would do it. If they said you're going to die in 2 years, I'd be like, okay.
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah. Honestly, Chris wants to go. He said if they colonize Mars, he wants to go. He said that he'd rather be on Mars than Earth. I was like, all right, babe.
And,
it's not that. It's more, being one of the ones who did it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he wants to be one of the new people on planet. I'm like, well, shit, that means your dad and I have to go with you too, because we're not, I'm not going to not see you again. So, yeah, if Chris goes, we go.
And, granted, it's kind of interesting that most of those astronauts from the Apollo program lived to a ripe old age. Because technically speaking, the more time you spend in space, you're shaving years off your life, technically, due to radiation exposure.
Yeah.
Of course, those guys
you
are super healthy.
You got to remember, Chuck Yeager and all those guys were actually younger than everyone else on the planet.
That's right, because time moves different.
Because they were several seconds. I think they were like 8 seconds behind everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys remember when they sent John Glenn back up?
Yeah.
To see how, the effects of outer space would affect somebody who is elderly, and he did fantastic.
You want to talk about? I was researching for the third phase of the books. I was researching time dilation. Did you know that if you have a atomic clock at sea level and an atomic clock at the top of the highest mountain in the world, they will actually go off of sync?
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Because of the difference in speed.
What got me?
Well, it's like the wing, and it's like what is it? The centrifugal force, and when something's spinning, like a rotor wing.
Well, there's the experiments they did with the SR-71, where they synchronized watches, one on the ground and one on the pilot on the SR-71, and they were off.
This obsession with safety has been nothing but harmful to the culture. I mean, life isn't safe.
Life is not safe.
And what's weird is the people who mandated it were the boomers who didn't give two fucks if their children died on the playground.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
When I was a kid, I was, I'm older than all you guys. When I was a kid, underneath the monkey bars was fucking asphalt.
Yeah.
Concrete.
Not
even gravel. And I still remember the girl that went to do a lemon drop and landed on the back of her head. The ambulance took her away. The next time we saw her, she had a bucket on her head.
I remember dudes in second grade we were throwing rocks at each other. And that's a boy thing.
It's a boy thing.
We were throwing rocks at each other. And then I was like flirting with this girl, April. Was it April Summers or something like that? And she was talking to me. She's like, "Oh my God, Steven is over there." And Steven was, the big kid, right? And I turned around. He's got a rock in his hand. He looks at me. I was like, "Oh shit!" So I turned around and charged April because he had told me that if I was flirting with her, he would rather take her out basically than let her talk to me again. So he was going to throw a rock at her. So I charged her, and in my second grade brain, it made sense to run
Tackle her.
15 feet and tackle a girl into gravel rather than her being hit by a rock.
When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I can remember being on the monkey bars and I'm trying to, do a flip, and instead I land face first on the asphalt and I knock out my 2 lower baby teeth.
Yep.
And I cried for a little bit, and then Tooth Fairy came the next day. I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's knock out some more teeth."
Well, Ishi hit it. The first wave of kids that the boomers had, they didn't give a fuck about.
No, they
It
did
was
not.
the second wave they wrapped in bubble wrap.
Yep.
Yep.
And
And
the
then
fucked
gave
millennials
up
are
themselves
the cool
awards
for
for
kids.
doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke all the time that you shouldn't write a fight scene unless you've been punched in the face. And I don't know how many boards I've said this on, and I have had a slew of writers saying, "Well, I like perfectly fine fight scenes, and I've never been punched in the face." I'm like, how do you get through? Even the girls I knew got punched in the face at least once. And then it dawns on me that just doesn't happen anymore. And I'm not saying go out and punch your kids in the face.
Was it Mike Tyson says, you know what the problem with people today is there ain't enough of them been hitting in mouth.
Yeah.
Oh
God.
The rush of the adrenaline, your hands shaking, either the rage or the fear you feel instantly at that moment.
Yeah.
The experience of snapping.
And the difference, I've been afraid in a fight, and I've had my leg shake because I was really afraid. I was terrified. And then I've also been where I'm past that and I don't care. And I'm like, I'm going to hurt you no matter what happens. You might kill me. I'm going to hurt you.
So nobody here has ever been in the woohoo, as in this is going to be great.
In
Only
a fight?
when I'm sparring, because I love sparring.
In a fight, yeah. In a fight.
No, I've never gotten to that point.
See, I was never afraid.
Yeah, the few fights that I've been in, I will admit, and I'm going to say, I kind of wish the other person had fought back, but the few fights that I've been in were very much so one-sided, and that's because I fucking dominated. It's the, icy red, and the next thing I know, people are pulling me off of them.
Draco, I never got hit by a car. I got shot.
I was drunk and got hit by a car.
Fighting is another one of those things that I don't know, it's weird because you talk to people and depending on the way that most people approach it is the way that most people approach anything is your first fights, the first times that you interacted with people is your family. And the first fights that I got into were my dad.
Whoa.
So when you're 7 or 8 years old, and the fights with your dad, that's what you remember. And so it's it wasn't that I was afraid of that person. I was terrified of that. I'm reliving that trauma.
My first fight was with my older brother.
And that's usually what, then it was my sister later, right? But after I started getting into fights and I had kind of sort of remapped that to, fights and not the trauma, then it was okay, it was just a fight. It's just okay, you really want this? All right, we'll do this.
I used to go drinking with people who like to get drunk and punch each other in the face because it was fun to do. Yeah,
I was in a goth punk sort of group in high school, and we would just slam into. We didn't punch each other, but we would just run into each other full speed.
Mosh pit,
and two dudes running into each other 10 feet away, full speed. That shit hurts.
But the rule is, and I had this happen to me, is when you go down, they pill you right back up.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Had that happen at Chem Lab.
Really?
I was at Monsters of Rock. And went down on one knee, and 12 people yanked me back up because I was up in the mosh pit.
Yeah, you don't get trampled.
You guys are lucky. I forget what concert I was at, but I got dragged into a mosh pit unwillingly. And I had a bunch of bodies land on me, and I kept screaming, my leg, because it had gotten twisted. And it took 2 minutes before people were like, yo, this chick is getting crushed on the floor. That was the last time I even went anywhere near
what show
a mosh
was this?
pit. Oh, I can't remember. It was the Spring Fling Festival at Viejas at SDSU.
Oh, well, there was your
I
problem right
had
there.
a thing like that when I was in San
FPSU.
Antonio at this place called White Rabbit, and White Rabbit was like it was they like when they were starting to go down in fame. Goo Goo Dolls did a thing there, and they had another local group there, and so the girls like the sort of like semi in between like punk and poppy girls were all there. And it was
Yeah.
just a ridiculous amount of girls there. And I've never seen so many women just do like a mosh pit. But they had me and my friend Daniel and a few others basically in the front, like doing like protecting the band, quote unquote. And the band was just like, let them through. We don't care.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. So we started letting them through, and they started trampling over each other like zombies to get
Yeah.
to the musicians. I mean, they were just killing each other. And we're like, well, we can't let them kill each other. So we did have to start like untangling them.
Oh shit! I remember now. You guys are gonna be fucking mortified at the mosh pit. It was for fucking Unwritten Law.
Who?
Who does a mosh pit with
Oh,
Unwritten
yeah.
Law?
I don't even know who that is.
I don't either.
That sounds vaguely homosexual to me. Burn the witch.
Oh god.
Or
Unwritten
they
Law.
pop punk?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones that did that song Superman.
Oh, they came from Poway.
Yeah, they were at the Spring Fling Festival because it was all the local bands that had gotten big. So Buck-09, Blink-182, Sprung Monkey.
I've heard of Blink 182. That's about it.
Yeah, they also came from Poway.
Sprung Monkey.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Sounds like somebody pulled down his pants,
There's
Christ.
some weirdly named bands that came out of San Diego in the late 90s, the mid to late 90s.
He pulled down his pants. His girlfriend's like, that's like a monkey. He's like, oh, shit, give me a piece of paper.
Sprung Monkey.
Sprung Monkey.
I still remember I was at the bar Emos in Austin, and they had this Japanese band playing, and the guy was yelling at the top of his lungs up there singing, and the only thing we could understand that he was saying is devastation, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. But I'll be goddamned before we run in the mosh pit on that shit. Some Japanese metal band, and we couldn't understand a word they were saying.
Wow.
That's why I got clocked in the face with a beer bottle.
Oh.
Yeah, it was no big deal. She apologized, and I fucked her by the dumpster in the alley.
Wait, Wolf, was Jane's Addiction from San Diego? I thought they were from LA.
Yeah, I thought they were from LA too.
Damn.
I know the reason they named the band Jane's Addiction is because they were all heroin addicts. I can't remember.
What?
Perfect Circle was from... No, A Perfect Circle was... That was the spin-off band from Tool.
Tool, yeah.
No, he says he's naming weird names.
Oh, okay. Because, I mean, I even remember Maynard's blatant design of A Perfect Circle was a fucking vagina. Seriously, look it up. It looks like a vagina, but if you look at it carefully, it's actually just a circle turned. But the way he made the shapes, it's a vagina. Because it's
He's like,
fucking
haha,
Maynard.
we're going to do this, and people will love it anyway.
Well, I mean, do you remember the old Tool symbol that was a wrench, but the two bottom had the
the nut.
lug nut? Yeah,
Yep.
the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I never paid attention to all that when I was a kid. I just liked the music, or I didn't,
I remember the Santana album that if you looked at it one way, it was a woman with her arms spread out. If you looked at it the other way, it was a lion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Tool album? It was Enema, where it was holographic, and if you turned it, there was a guy that was giving himself head, and he was rocking.
No.
I do not remember that.
That was actually on the VIP passes for their concert that I went to, and I was like on 2 double tip sugar cubes of LSD.
There we go.
Wow, I feel so innocent. I just went and saw Metallica at Austin.
Sorry, I did a lot of drugs when I went to concerts. I had a rebellious phase where I took a lot of hallucinogens and went and saw bands.
Most girls just suck a lot of dick for their rebellious phase. You had to just go above and beyond and do drugs and go see bands.
Well,
I admire someone.
Haven't I told you my Tool story where the guy thought I had great tits, so he gave me the VIP pass, and I went in, and I was tripping balls when I met Maynard. And he's like, he came up to my breasts, and I was just like, can you sign this? I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Oh, Jesus.
Great concert, though. Holy shit, man. I recommend if you ever go see Tool, take drugs.
I'm too old for that
Take
shit.
drugs and have tits.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the have tits part that I ain't gonna make it on.
Right? Like, oh, shit, I
What
don't
if
have
you brought some with you? Does that count as well?
Look, nothing beats peeking on acid while Timothy Leary is lecturing you from the back screen on fire.
Yeah.
Or seeing Maynard be put into a body bag and carried around while singing from the body bag. Actually, that one kind of disturbed me. I didn't know what
Holy
the fuck.
crap. That's nuts.
Also, they had a cow's eye being dissected on the back screen. That was very weird to see. And the only time I kind of freaked out, like I started having a little bit of a bad trip, is they kept having this weird chick like twisting and untwisting. I was like, okay, that's going on for too long. Can we switch it to something else, please?
The last time I was peeking on acid, I was sitting in a campfire with me, my wife, and 2 friends, and we'd all dropped acid, and we're just sitting there BSing in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night.
The first and only time I was tripping on acid, I was on the Alice in Wonderland ride, realizing I'd wasted my money.
On the Alice in Wonderland ride or the acid?
Both. Actually, the acid I didn't pay for. The Alice in Wonderland ride, I kind of had this epiphany that I had paid $60 to sit on a little cart that looked like a caterpillar while little cutouts of cardmen danced around and I heard music. And then I realized it was all really fucking stupid.
One of the times I did acid, I spent the entire day just laying on a tile floor with a wet towel across my eyes and letting my brain decompress. That was nice. That was a good day. I used a little screwdriver to pop a filling out and pack the tab of acid into the hole.
Oh, shit.
God damn, that's hardcore.
Then I just laid on the floor with a wet towel over my eyes and just
put the filling back later, or you just have to remove the tooth?
Yeah. No. I just went into the dentist and said I got punched in the mouth and knocked the filling out. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I just laid on the floor with a wet towel on my eyes, just doing breathing exercises for like 12 hours.
Me and acid didn't get along. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I was mad at myself.
You can still do math on acid.
Yeah. I was really pissed that I'd let myself do it.
See, I did great on acid. I didn't do so great on mushrooms, but I think it's because I took way too many mushrooms every time.
Acid would short circuit my brain so that it wasn't constantly running. So I'd actually get like,
those weren't shiitake.
Yeah. I did mushrooms a couple times and I was never impressed with them. I did peyote once. I did peyote with a friend of mine. That was a mistake.
I've always wanted to do peyote.
Did you puke all
over?
They have
like you can have like peyote tours now. Like different Indian reservations will like let you have these like 2-hour smoking sessions.
Yeah.
Where they will teach you to go through it and reach your different meditative states.
A buddy of mine was a res Indian and he took me with him back home on leave, and we did peyote out in the fucking desert by a campfire.
The way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, actually, that's what he said. He's out there singing and shit, and I'm like, "You're not gonna scalp me, are you?" He's like, "No, we don't do that anymore."
We stopped doing that 5 years ago.
I saw some.
The people stopped coming back. Shit. It wasn't good for return business.
And he said it was all cool, that there's a white guy out there in his underwear ranting and raving at the stars. But no, it's perfectly fine, man. That's normal. I'm like, okay. He was like, what did you see? I said, I was told not to tell anybody else. He goes, then you did good. Let's go back. Because he gave me peyote and some shit out of a gourd that was really thick, like syrup, and tasted kind of sweet. And the next thing I knew, it was the next day, and I was face down.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, and I was told never to speak of what I saw. It weirded me out. And my buddy's like, "How you feeling?" I said, "Actually, I feel pretty good." He was like, "See, that's why we do it."
That's an interesting.
What?
I've heard other people say similar things about it. Yeah, they told me not to say.
Yeah, it's
it was supposed to be a personal trip. Was it like the Dream Quest or something? I can't remember the specific name for it.
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest. There you go.
Yeah, he just took me out to fucking get my head screwed back on straight. and it actually worked. I mean, it was fucking weird.
Well, I mean, the ones that are crazier, there's ones that like where they have like the retreats with the tents. You know, you get in there and they're like a sauna, but it's just
Oh, the sweat lodge.
a fire, and then they give you the drugs as well. So your temperature's just driven way the heck up there.
Yeah,
and
we did
then
the
you take
sweat
the drugs,
lodge.
and
We did the
you
sweat
just
lodge.
see everything.
Yeah, we did the sweat lodge, and then we walked 3 miles out into the fucking desert. And he built a little fire and was singing, and he gave me the peyote, and then I drank that shit. And I remember the last thing I said that was coherent was, "I don't think this shit's working."
There was
words.
And then I woke up face down.
There's a book called Your Brain on Plants or Your Mind on Plants that's really well written. And it's the guy, literally, he goes on all these different tours of different like marijuana and of peyote and several others. And he's trying to write about it. And he was like, the only thing I remembered saying about peyote was he said he felt aqueous.
I found the book. Yeah, this is Your Mind on Plants.
Aqueous.
Yeah, he's like, I felt aqueous. And then, I mean, he had much more. I mean, he's a very well-written guy. So it was very, interesting after that. But I just thought it was, he's like, I was like, what did he mean by that? And it's like, I could see that though. Like, you just feel like you're you could fit anywhere.
Oh, shit. Hey, guys, I just realized it's 10:19. I have to wake up at 6:30, so I have to go. You guys can keep going.
Well, we've been on for an hour and 45, and
oh, okay.
I need to get up tomorrow.
I will tell you what the weirdest trip I had was.
Okay.
Western Appalachian moonshine.
Oh no.
Oh, you just made me want to unlock an achievement.
I hallucinated shit like I would never believe.
Wow.
You guys should come visit me. I'll get my cousin to make some banana moonshine.
Oh no.
This
it's
was
the craziest stuff ever.
That and ouzo with the opium crystals in it made me hallucinate.
I've always told him I wanted to make some like was it bananas flambe with his moonshine, his banana moonshine, because I just think that'd be hilarious.
I remember it was green.
Okay, I don't know if that was moonshine. It sounds more like.
Hey guys, I gotta go. It was fun talking to you guys tonight, but I do have to go to bed. So I will talk to you guys soon.
But have a great night.
Night.
Yeah, drink this, city boy, and then I woke up in a ditch.
But was it fun?
I had fun. It was a good 2 weeks.
Oh,
that's a long trip.
No, I only spent 2 nights wandering around the woods, drinking out of a mason jar.
Jesus.
In the Appalachian woods, and then we wonder why those people are so effed up.
Wander around with my friend.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to call it an evening.
I have to get up at 6. I have to get up in 5.5 hours.
Oh,
I have to get up whenever I get up, but
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. This has been a blast as always, and we'll see you all next week. So I would hit the button, and off we go.